is Research in Motion really planning to discontinue its PlayBook tablet? Earlier today, Collins Stewart analyst Vinh wrote a note that they believe RIM has stopped production of the PlayBook and is considering exiting the tablet market. But RIM denied that claim, calling the rumor or report pure fiction. Joining us now from Stamford, Connecticut to help separate fact from fiction is RIM analyst Blair of Wedge Partners. Brian, certainly some entertaining interchanges here. What is going on? Is RIM still making the PlayBook or not?
You know, they are still making the PlayBook. Unfortunately, they're just making a lot fewer of them than they expected. This thing only sold a few 100,000 units. In their first quarter, it was available. They shipped in 600,000 units, and then 3 months later, they shipped only 200,000. So this has already been a disaster for them. They're clearly shutting down some of the manufacturing, and I think that's what this analyst is picking up on. And he's drawing a line and suggesting they're cutting it off. But they're not cutting it off. They're just making a lot fewer of them than they expected to.
So, Brian, tell us how you really feel. Earlier today, you said, I have a PlayBook and I use it as a drink coaster. Obviously, you're not such a fan of this product. I mean, what's wrong with it?
You know, it's true. I've said a lot of negative things since before it came out. There are a couple of key things that I think are problematic about it. The first is that it doesn't support native email, calendar, or address book. If you want to access those three critical functions, you have to have it wirelessly tethered to an existing BlackBerry. Who wants to have, you really want them to have separate functionality. You don't want to have to go reach for your BlackBerry anytime you just want to quickly check, your calendar or address book. I mean, imagine if the iPad didn't work with those key functions unless you had your iPhone nearby. It would be ludicrous. But RIM has done that, and that was the first major flaw. The other real problem with it is that there are no apps available for it. There's really not a whole lot you can do with it. And even this many months later, if you actually go through their app store, what they call App World, you really don't find much. There's really nothing there that's of any use. So I have one, and it's a drink coaster because it's really not functional for me. They have a great browser. It really does have a good browser, and that really is the strength of the product. But that's a lot. That's $600, or rather $500, even with this cut at Best Buy today. That's an expensive web browser.
Exactly. Best Buy slashed the price of the PlayBook by $200. I mean, do you think there's a market out there for the PlayBook at a lower price point?
Not in its current form. I don't. I think they need to kill this product. I've said that for a little while. I think that, with sales, of only 200,000 units selling in this last quarter, I think the street largely just feels like this product is dead, and I think they should kill it. I don't think they're going to. Obviously, their comments about this rumor today further, suggest they're not going to kill it, but they should. I think they're stubborn, though, and it's hard to admit when you have a product that's a bomb. But that's exactly what this is, and I think they're keeping it around because the development in this operating system they feel is relevant because they plan on rolling this into future smartphones. The real story with RIM right now is they actually have some great new handsets. These new OS 7 handsets are actually great. They're fast. They run on OS 7 they run on Snapdragon processors. This new OS 7 is pretty slick. In many ways, it's not as good as iPhone or Android, but it's good, and they're selling.
But what about the new QNX operating system that's been coming for so long now? I mean, where is it? So much of their hopes seem to be pinned on this new operating system, and it's nowhere to be seen.
That's right. At the end of the day, it's going to be a big effort to take that OS, which right now is really for smartphones or large form factor pieces of hardware, and to cram it down into a smartphone because it's going to require some intense processing power, probably a quad-core processor. And right now, we're really only seeing dual-core processors in smartphones. So I think it's going to be a 2012 event. We'll see if they can turn things around with it. But until we actually see a smartphone with that OS, we're really guessing at this point. But their new phones with this OS 7 are good.
What about the management? I mean, more executives leaving today. I mean, does RIM need new talent at the top?
Well, look, these guys who are leaving today, these guys are in charge of developer relations. So, not surprisingly, they haven't been doing their job because there really are not very many great apps for the PlayBook, or even for the BlackBerry overall. So, these guys haven't been doing a great job. So it makes sense that they're leaving. There does need to be a change at the top, though. RIM has had two great co-CEO team that has done a great job for about 10 years, up until about 2 years ago. In the last 24 months, they've simply been leapfrogged by the competition in smartphones, and now they need to step down and hand the reins over to somebody, I think, who can really who can take the company to the next level and really help them effectively compete with what Apple is doing and with what Android is doing, or what Google is doing, rather, with the Android OS.
Who is that somebody? I mean, who can make the miracle happen at RIM?
You know, probably somebody young who can look at this whole space with a fresh set of eyes and isn't mired down by what the trends have been for the previous decade, but can look forward and really catch a vision for where this market is going. You know, RIM still takes the point this is about email, and it's not about email. It's about apps now. And the first thing that they need to hire is somebody who can help really develop a strong app ecosystem, because that's the primary thing this lacks, and that's what consumers expect now.
All right, Brian Blair of Wedge Partners with a brutally honest assessment of what is going on at RIM. Thanks, Brian.
You bet. Thanks for having me.